If you've been following along, you know that I have been working on perfecting the handheld rig. I started out utilizing this Anton Bauer battery base, and I shot a few weddings with that to test it out and how I liked it. And there were a couple of problems that I found. One of them being the balance of the camera. So with the 24-70, I like to have this Sigma 24-70 on there for the flexibility on a wedding day. And so I found the rig was a little bit front heavy when utilizing that. So I decided to switch it up and try to work on coming up with a rig with the V-mount on the back. But here's the issue. I didn't really want a matte box on the front of this rig. I didn't really feel like I needed it. And so I really didn't have a need for rails and all of the rail stuff. So I was trying to figure out what is a solution I can use without having to buy rails and have rails sticking out the front of the rig. So this is what I've come up with. And I'll break this down and show you all the details of what it is and how it's set up. And I'll even give you part numbers and some general pricing to give you an idea. The rig is basically not as expensive as maybe you would think, but maybe more expensive than you would think too. I'm not sure what your perspective is, but let's start with looking at this battery that's on the back. So just to start with, this is an A7s III with a Sigma 24-70. I have a battery in the A7s III, and then I have USB-C charging that battery all day long, and it will keep up. I also power this monitor off of the V-mount with a NPF to DTAP cable that runs from here. So let's talk about this battery first of all, because I went through a couple of variations of this. So I started with this FXL Ion Nano 1, which works fine. It's a lightweight battery and it's only 3,400 milliamps, and therein lies the problem for me. They're also fairly expensive. It's got a great fancy light and display on it, which really I have no need for, but it just didn't last long enough. So I got about 2.5 or 3 hours out of this battery, but on a wedding day, we're there for, 8 or 10, 12 hours. So rather than buy 3 or 4 of these and be switching it all day long, I opted to go with something a little bit larger. What I landed on was the Came TV. This is the Mini 99 is what this is called. This is a 99 watt hour, 6875 milliamp battery, and I got this on sale. I think they're about $130 a piece. When it comes to weight, it's not quite twice as heavy as this one, but I did find that it was a good balance on the back of the camera to balance lens and everything out. So it worked out really well. This will last me about 5.5 hours, maybe 6, depends on obviously on the day. But this has been a great battery. For 130 bucks, this is a really good deal. And also, if you look at how these are constructed and what's inside, there are Samsung lithium-ion batteries. So this is a great battery. Came TV stuff's good stuff. So that's the battery that I'm using. It has 2 D-taps and a USB. All I really need is 1 D-tap, 1 USB for this setup, but it does have another D-tap if you have another item that needs to be powered off D-tap as well. The next thing that's really, let's go ahead and take, this is a Rode VideoMic Pro that I keep on there. I'll just set this off to the side. And this is a Andy Cine 4K monitor on the front. This is not a high quality, it's a super affordable monitor, but I have a Shinobi 7 also, but I also just found the Shinobi 7 was just almost too big. So I went back to this Andy Cine. It's cheap, it's affordable, and it's super lightweight. Yes, it's made out of plastic, but actually that's what I wanted. I wanted something lightweight, and it does perfectly fine. It does everything I want. I don't really have a need to see the display on the back of the camera, but if I do, I can get to that. So I'll show you that here in just a minute. But that's what this is. This is a Condor blue cable. Just HDMI cable. And you'll see that I'm using these Ranger bands to hold these cables kind of together here so that if I am gripping this, I can, you know, easily reach in here and grab it. Here's that NPF to D-tap cable. And I just kind of run these around the side, and then I have another Ranger band down here that kind of holds all the cables in this empty space in between. I'll take this off to give us some space so we can see what we're working with here. I do have the iPad here with all of the part numbers and stuff so that we can talk through this. For charging the camera itself, I have a right angle USB to USB-C right angle cable. It's just a little short 12-inch cable, maybe 17-inch total, USB to USB-C. And then, of course, we've got this NPF. This is the D-tap. And this Ranger band just lets me shove all those cables under the edge and be able to kind of keep them somewhat tidy. So let's start with the handles. The top handle on this, let's see, it's the HTN 2362 from Small Rig. It does have the wood inlay. That's 89 bucks on Amazon. And I'm going to put that link in the description for you. It is NATO, so it's sitting on top of a mini low-rise NATO rail. And that's Small Rig 2172 is the part number. That is $13.99 for that NATO rail. And it just slides off and on in there. It has, you know, a couple of spring-loaded pins on it. On this handle, I have the Small Rig monitor mount, and that's part number 2174. That's $32.99. I like this because it has the RE locating pins that keeps it from turning even if it gets a little loose, which I tighten these up tight, and I use an Allen key to really put some force on them. But that's what this monitor mount is. So that is the top handle. Then I have two side handles. I bought this wooden side handle with the record button from Small Rig on the side. I like this because, number one, it really feels good in the hand, but also because it lets me start and stop recording without having to lose hand position. I can even hold it one-handed and do that. It's expensive, so this wooden rosette side handle with the record button, part number 3324, is $99. It's kind of pricey maybe, I don't know. It is rosette, so the nice thing is you can adjust the angle to whatever's comfortable for you. And it just screws on the side. And I'll show you how the cabling works. So it comes with, this version comes with the Sony cable, Panasonic, Fuji, something else. Cable plugs in here, and then you've got another cable that plugs into the side of the shutter control. Rosette, easy to take on and off. It is very comfortable in the hand, but again, $99. So that's the side handle. If you're going to use that side handle, it does not come with this rosette on the side. You have to purchase that. So the standard bolt-on rosette, part number 1939 is $21.99. It just bolts onto the side of your cage. On this side, I have another Small Rig handle. This is the universal aluminum side handle, part number HSS2425. It's $49.90. This handle I have on the left side. You can put this handle on either side because it has these two bolts in the side that allow you to not only adjust the height up and down, but also to completely turn it around and put it on the other side if you want. And it has two bolts that bolt into the side of the cage. I put it just right below my HDMI lock that I have. And this guy you want to crank down pretty tight. It does have some thumb tighteners, but I find that I wind up sticking a tool in there just to really put some oomph on them. The most important part of this entire build in my mind really isn't the handles and all of that stuff. Most everyone has seen that. It's this system on the bottom. So I'm going to show you that. This is built so that if you loosen this clamp right here, that this swivels. The reason that I like that is because swiveling gives you the ability, if you need to or want to for some reason, you can get to the monitor and flip it out and still use it, and then just fold it back up. So this is really the key to the build. I'm going to go ahead and take this Ranger band off there so you can see a little bit better, hopefully. By the way, these Ranger bands, you can get these on Amazon, a pack that has different sizes. They're great. It's basically almost like a tube from a tire, like an inner tube for a tire. You can make these yourself if you want to. So this is the part that's really the most important components. What's nice about this is you can loosen these off on each side here, and then this will just come right out. I've got a Manfrotto style plate on the bottom of this to go into tripods, monopods, and so forth, but this you could not use. You could use Arca Swiss if that's your thing, or whatever. I use Arca Swiss on some stuff as well. There also is an option to put a quick release on top of this piece. So this piece is the dual 15mm rod clamp. So what you want is part number MD2802 for $35.90. I'm sorry, $34.90, and part number 3016, which is $39.90. So you get the V-mount battery plate with the dual rod hinge, and you also get the battery. I'm sorry, the clamp. Basically, what's nice about this is you don't need to put the rods in, because this hinge part with the V-mount battery clip has little short rods on it right here that are just long enough to fit into this and then tighten up to keep you from having to buy rods and actually mounting it all on rods. Then you can adjust this however you want. If you wanted it to be flat, you could take this off. It bolts on right through here. You could take this off and flip it around so that it was on top, and you could put your battery in longwise if you wanted to do that. I personally like it up like this, because it allows me to slap the battery on there and hold it close to my chest if I want to while I'm using it. So that is my rig. It's just built upon this small rig cage. It's an A7s III small rig cage, and this will work for an A7s III or an A7 IV. The cage is A7s III-3007, and it's $59.90 for the cage. It is the full cage. And then I don't use the quick release option on the bottom of this, but you could. If you're the type who needs to pop your camera out of this getup and put it onto a gimbal, you can rig this with a quick release plate. So just get a NATO quick release and put on there. I personally like it mounted. I find it's much more stable. It's not as likely to move around, and I hard screwed that into the bottom of the cage so it's always on there. So I figure if I just need the camera for something, I'll just pop it out of the cage. To me, that's easier than completely taking everything off of it. So that's the setup. I'll put it back together so you can see what it looks like now, and maybe I'll speed it up so you don't have to sit here and watch. In there, you're good to go. Everything's fired up. Let's tighten this up. That's how it works. Fits nicely up against your chest. You can also hold underneath and carry it around. It's really great as a day of, whenever you're, I don't know, it just feels more documentary style. I get tired of gimbal shots all the time. I love the flexibility of this, of just always having it in my hands. I can capture moments quickly, efficiently. I can always just really just be up in the middle of things without carrying around a gimbal all day. I just get tired of that part of it, so maybe that's just my hang up. But if you're thinking about a handheld rig, I think this is something to consider. And then if you do need to get to this screen, as I was showing before, you can just loosen this. And of course, I haven't organized any of these cables in that time, but you can get this screen out if your cables are a little more organized. and pop it out to the side like that if you want to, then put this back up and tighten it. Or you can leave it down if you want. I personally don't use this screen ever, hardly. I like all my stuff displayed up here. With this in the upright position, you can still get to all your controls and change and buttons to make settings with your thumb. So, for instance, I would hold this and then I reach in and do this and make changes, and you know, you can still get through all the menu items and still hit these buttons. I'm really only generally, you know, adjusting ISO and shutter. And that's pretty much it. And mostly ISO, it seems like these days. So anyway, this is the A7S III build. I hope this is helpful. If you have questions about this, I'm going to put all the part numbers and all the stuff down in the description. If you've got questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer anything. This is fun for me. This is like Legos for adults. I really enjoy it. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you again soon.